to you. I got it from the library. I know it. Sogi, S-O-G-I, was an important poet. He was important, I think, to basho. So if basho liked him, then I like him. Oh, okay. So I'm going to read chapter 22, The Death of Sogi by Socho. Oh, okay. So this is somebody writing about Socho. I'm reading from the Penquin Classics, Travels with the Writing Brush, chapter 22. It says, The Death of Sogi. As an old man, Sogi seemed to grow weary of the hermitage that had been his home for years. At the beginning of spring, making arrangements to leave the capital, he composed this haiku. Miyakotoshi, Miyako o yosono, Aruga sumi. Drifter as I am. Yeah, right now I sort of drifted to the tennis court. Are you like a tennis high concha plane drifter, like drifting? You just drift from tennis court to tennis court? Well, it's not that. That's the saying that I'm a high plains drifter, saying that I'm like just a tennis bum. It's not really accurate. I mean, I took my girlfriend to the beauty parlor. That's important. Okay. And then I had some free time, so I came to the tennis court to do the podcast. Okay. But subject to having nobody to hit with, so it's all very sensible, and it's beautiful here in Forest Hills tennis court. I'm in Forest Hills. There's nobody here to hit with, and it's a beautiful morning. Where is everybody? It's a Tuesday morning in Forest Hills Concha tennis or tennis court, and I drifted right in here to do the podcast or play tennis. Oh, that's what you do. Like if you can't play, you do podcasting. Yeah, I drifted into this podcast. Drifter as I am. Like the spring mist this year. Like this, I'll rise and leave the capital behind me. So I left the capital, like sort of Manhattan behind, and went to Forest Hills tennis court. Drifter as I am, I am like the spring mist this year. So, yeah, in a way, I'm like the spring mist, too. So, drifter as I am, can't you read it correctly? Drifter as I am, like the spring mist this year. I'll rise and leave the capital behind me. That year, as autumn ended, he set off to journey beneath traveler skies along the bushy road, and with no thought of the mountains that might bring him home again. And in the land of Ichugo, sought out an old acquaintance, staying there 2 years. Yeah, I mean, I do seek out other old acquaintances to play tennis with me sometimes, and maybe I'll text some later on and text after the dentist. I have to go to the dentist tomorrow, dental, so. But the dentist probably isn't in yet, so it's like 8:30. Learning that he was there at the end of the 6th month of 1501. Yeah, we were talking about here 1501 in Japan. I think he's a predecessor to basho. Sogi is, because remember, I think basho, like, people admired, like, I think Sogi and Sagyo and another guy. The 6th month of 16, yeah, and it's the 5th month here. It's the 6th month of 1501. I set forth on the road out of the land of Suruga over Yashigara Mountain. Fuji's peak seen to the north, following the waves on Ojima's coast in the seas of Uzu, the rocky shores of Kororugi. A glimpse of Kamakura as I passed, seeing as if before my eyes that past age where the Minamotos and the 9 generations of rulers at once had flowered, and it seemed to me that the beech pines of Surugaka Shrine and the snow-heaped roofs were quite the equal of the famous shrine of Iwashi Musu. Those mountain scenes, those valley deeps, could scarcely be plumbed by a brush's words. For the last 8 or 9 years, they say, battles have raged between the Yamanochi and the Ogi no Yatsu. Yeah, it's been actually about 8 to 9 years now that the separatists and the Russians have been fighting the Ukrainians. Oh, okay. They say the battles have raged between Ukraine and Russia, dividing the 8 lands so that travelers have a far from easy time of it. Yeah, it's not really easy to travel now with coronavirus and stuff, so it's still not easy as it used to be. So you have to have many worries and stuff. But I gathered news from here and there, and thus made my way on through Musashino, past Uino, and arrived at last at Ko, in the land of Ichiko, around the first day of the 9th month. Here I visited Sogi. S-O-G-I. Yeah, here we're talking about Socho, S-O-C-H-O, is visiting Sogi, S-O-G-I. And we spoke together of all that had passed since we saw each other last. I was planning to go on to the capital, but those long, hard roads through far places bore down on me now, and I became ill, and so the days passed. At length, past the 20th day of the 10th month, I recovered and was of a mind to set off when a wild snowstorm blew up. Yeah, we're talking, he's saying it's September in Japan, or the 10th month, the 20th day of the 10th month. So now it's, the 10th month. So a wild snowstorm blew up. The waves of far Nakahama receded from my grasp, and any hope of Mount Arachi must be still more unlikely, I was told. Yeah, it's unlikely that you can climb Mount Washington in October. It's too cold, really. So I chose to stay on in a meager traveler's lodgings and see out the year there, waiting for the spring, while day after day the snow swirled down and the snow drifts piled higher. Yeah, I decided to wait out to go to Colombia, and I went on December 1st to wait out the winter, waiting for spring. I was waiting for spring, and even the locals complained that they had never seen such snow, and I bore it still harder. I sent this to a friend. He says, Omo Iare Toshi Suki Naruru Hitomo Mada Awazu to Uzi Ukino Yatoru. Think of me here, lodged under snows, lamented as unmatched, even by those who know the snows of many years. Yeah, I don't know. At my great age, I should know the snows of many years. Yeah. Are you old, or? Well, in theory, you practice longevity, so Yeah, and you exercise, and you die on a diet, and you do keto, and intermittent fasting, and you play tennis, and volleyball. And so you claim that you're young, but if you read this Asian stuff all the time, yeah. And then on the 10th day of the year last month, around 10 in the morning, there was a great earthquake. Yeah. And the earth continued to be tossed about many times a day, the tremors continuing for 5 or 6 days. Many people died, houses collapsed, and even the place where I stayed seemed in danger. So I had to seek fresh lodgings where I saw out the year. Yeah, and I ended up having to seek fresh lodgings. I had lodgings. I was seeking lodgings. Even in Colombia, and then I got some fresh lodgings coming up in Cape Cod. So okay, on the first day of the new year, there was a Renga gathering with a dream poem of Sogi's as Hoku. Yeah, Hoku is like probably a predecessor to haiku. Yeah, what do you know about it? You're not a Japanese scholar. Why are you reading this if you don't have a PhD in Japanese studies? Well, they don't do anything. To get a PhD is like to cease to do anything because it only builds your ego, so you stop doing anything. Okay, all right. Toshi yakesa aki no igaku no utoyomatsu. He says, the year dawns this morning over the sacred crimson fence around those miraculous pines. When the meeting was over, I celebrated the master with Kono Haru o Yaroji ni Oso iti Chu Toshi Chu. Michi no Tamishi Yamatamo Mataman. This spring adds to your 80 years, the start of a new decade. Another setting forth. Along the way you tread before us. Adds to your 80 years. Yeah, when I turn 80, I'm going to have... The spring is going to add to my years. And I'm going to start a new decade, after another setting forth. Along the way. I'm going to continue on the way when I turn 80. Yeah, you'll be kind of young, probably. I wonder if you'll still be fairly young or fit. I'm not sure. Depends on how much you eat, I guess. Yeah, and you should be stretching your legs now instead of doing a podcast. Okay. Yeah, that's true. You should be exercising. When are you going to play tennis? Well, yeah, good question. When is somebody going to come and play with me is the question, yeah. In reply, he composed, Ini shi no. Tamishi ni toki Yaso jidani Sugaru wa suraki Oino urami no. Far back my old road stretches now, and with that what pain I climb yet higher over 80 years. Who's climbing over it? 80 years. Why are these guys so old? Why you read old poetry written by old men? What's wrong with you? I could see. This is supposed to keep you young. Yeah, it could, I suppose. On that same day, the 9th, we composed the first 22 of another Renga sequence, for which Soji's opening hoku was. Aoyagi mo Toshi ni Masaki no Kazura kana The sacred Masaki tree this new year surpassed by spring's green willow. From the end of the month, my old illness returned, and then a cold added to my woes, and so the days dragged on. By the end of the second month, I was better, but I set aside my plans for visiting the capital, and instead announced that I would return to Saruga, taking in the hot springs of Kusatsu in the land of Ino on my way. Yeah, I'm probably gonna definitely I would like to take in a hot springs tour in Japan. Yeah, well, why don't you call a tour operator? Well, I have that book, Guide to Hot Springs and Inns. They have hot spring inns. It's such a beautiful book just to read it. It's like being in Japan. Yeah, why don't you go there and stop at some of those? Well, I'm overwhelmed by the number of them that there are. There's so many that I don't understand Japanese, so I'm scared. Oh, I see. Let me come with you then, said Sogi. It is a miserable thing simply to wait on here for the end that will not oblige me by coming. Everyone's pity here fills me with shame. And it would only be depressing to go back to the capital. Yeah, it's kind of be depressing, I suppose, to just go back to Manhattan. But I'm not really depressed in Manhattan. I do pretty well going back to places, the capital, or I could go to Washington, D.C. I'm not, if you meditate a lot, you're not going to be depressed. Okay, God. Depression is caused by lack of meditation. Oh, that's it? Yeah, that's the cause. Okay, I thought it was something else. No, that's the cause. A man I know in the land of Mino keeps sending to encourage me to come and take refuge there for my remaining years. There was talk, too, of longing to see Mount Fuji once more. It seemed wrong to leave him there and return home alone, so I could only agree, and thus we set off along the Shinano Road, made our way across the stones of Chimuna River, and took in the wild fields of Suga no Arano, and on the 26th day arrived at Kusatsu. Are you going to that spring? Why don't you make some notes and go to these springs or something? Why aren't you retracing their steps? Okay. Who do you think I am? Why do I have to be basho? In the same land, there is also a famous hot spring. Okay, why don't you go to that one? There's a famous hot spring called Ikaho, I-K-A-H-O. It's famous, and this podcast is famous, and so is this book, and so is this poet, and so is hearing that the baths were good for the palsy. Sogi set off to go there, and we parted ways. Yeah, you usually hear rumors about how the baths are good for one thing or another. So what I do is I go and like if I'm going to get some sort of sickness in the future, I go and get cured before it happens. Oh, so you're going to the hot spring to cure future illnesses. Yeah. I don't go after I'm sick. I go before. Okay. Hearing that the baths were good for the palsy, Sogi set off to go there, and we parted ways. It was there that he grew ill and was unable to take the waters. Yeah, taking the waters was very in like the 19th century or something, even in America. You could take, the Romans took the waters a lot, and the Greeks also took waters. Fearing he might not survive to see the dawn of the 5th month's short night, he composed. Yeah, so I composed this podcast fearing that I might not survive. Aika, Nisan, Yutsuki Dorono, Shidari Ono, Koi Uramo Yono, Ono Tabinino. What is to be done? Old. I wake early. From my traveler's sleep, yeah, I wake early a lot. Yeah, I'm old too. What is to be done? Old, I wake early. From my traveler's sleep, longing for what the young resent. For what the young resent the bright cock's dawn announcement. In the land of Musa Shino, at the Iruma River crossing, there is a place called Uado, the stronghold of the Yamanochi, and here we rested for more than 20 days. There were many men of refinement and sensibility there. Yeah, like if I get lucky, I just wish to be around many men of refinement and sensibility. For once in my life, I don't know. I just wish. There were many men of refinement and sensibility there, and we held 1,000-link Renga gathering. Wow, this is quite a hip gathering. This sounds a lot better than Woodstock and all these things and gatherings. And yeah, Woodstock is nothing compared to this. Okay, we held 1,000-link Renga gathering. From there, we moved to Kawago and Miyoshino, where we stayed for more than 10 days, and then went on to the establishment by the name of Ito in the same island. By now, Sogi seemed on the point of death, but he rallied again and continued to compose. And his strength seemed to be returning in a place not far from Kamakura. We held another 1,000-link gathering that began on the 24th day and ended on the 26th, and in which he composed 10 links and more such each session, and more than he had managed earlier. Many fine ones among them. Yeah, many fine poems. To the lines, Kyo no mi to sumo, yo koso tokiri. He says, already far behind those days I lived, fearing each one my last. He added the following links. Yasochi Madi Itsuka Tanomishi Kurinanan. When did I ask I should live till 80? When did I ask that I should live to 80? Did I ever ask that? Yeah, once you asked. Have you asked God to live to 80, or what do you ever ask anything, or how come you don't ask for anything? God, when did I ask that I should live till 80? Yet now my days die to their end. Toshi no watari wa yuki hito no nashi. No man will ford that river from this year to the next. Oh no nami iki karispa. Wave upon wave these years. Bring in old age. How many crossings before the end arrives? Is your end arriving, or are you going to listen to this podcast upon your end? I realize now, looking back on it, that this might have been intended as a farewell poem before death. For the 2 days of the 27th and the 28th, we rested there, and on the 29th, we were setting off for the land of Sarugo when, around midnight, he was stricken with worms. We tried what remedies we had, but they had no effect, and there was nothing to be done. We found lodgings in a place called Kutsu and saw out the night there. The next day came horses, men, and a litter sent from Sarugo with Sojin hastening there on horseback. And with this help, we reached Yumoto at the foot of Mount Akoni. The following day, he felt somewhat better than he had on the road, and after a meal of rice cooked in spa water and some talk, managed to drift off to sleep. All were very relieved, and after making preparations for the next day's mountain crossing, we went to bed, but late in the night he was in terrible pain. We rolled him about to ease it, and he told us that in his dream he had met Count Takeoff. Then he recited, "Oh, thread that holds my soul, if you must break, break now. Oh, thread that holds my soul." He's talking about the silver cord. "Oh, thread that holds my soul, if you must break, break now," which we who heard him recognized as, in fact, the famous poem, "Basho Kushi Neshino." He then recited lines that seemed to come from our recent 1,000-link Renga session, "Rising to float into the moon, I gaze at. Rising to float into the moon, I gaze at. I can't manage to add the next link. We must all do it for me," he said playfully. And as he spoke, his breath ceased like a lamp flickering out. All were beside themselves with grief, but though our hearts were distracted with sorrow, we comforted ourselves with the thought that it was surely a love of travel. Yeah, love of travel. These are travel poems. Surely a love of travel that had brought the passing dew of his life to meet its end upon his final wayside pillow. They say that in China, too, there were wanderers who spent their days and met their end upon the road to become protective wayside gods. Yeah, I'm trying to leave this as a wayside protective podcast. Tobino yoni mata tabini shite shuka matakara. Wandering through this world itself, a wandering journey. I sleep the wayside traveler sleep, and in this dream of life, I dream again. This poem by the priest Jean was surely have been what any person of deep feeling would think of on this night. Kashikara Mountain is mournful enough, heaven knows, even to cross under normal circumstances. We set him in the litter as if he were still living and carried him along, following before and after until we reached the forest temple in a place called Momozono at the border of Saruga. Jorinji, it was called. It was just on dusk when we settled in. Here we spent a day preparing, and then on the third day of the 8th month, as dawn was breaking at a spot tucked in a little behind the temple's front gate, where a pure stream flows and set about with cedar, plum, and cherry trees, we buried him, planting a marking pine, as we recalled together the man we knew in life. Over the grave we placed an oval stone, and around it we set up a little fence. There we remained for 7 days of mourning, and then we set out for Ko. I read The Death of Sogi by Socho, and it says that about him, it says, among the Renka poets, Soji's devoted followers was a man named Socho, 1448 to 1532, who in his turn became one of the finest Renka poets of his day. He too was a great traveler, as befitted a Renka master. Like Soji, he was a commoner. Yeah, I'm sort of like Soji because I'm a commoner too. Soji, he was a commoner who emerged from the provinces, made his way to the capital as a young man, where he took the town share and became associated with one of the great Zen monasteries, Totikuchi, where he encountered the famous and famously irrelevant, eccentric old Zen monk Ikkyu, 1394 to 1481. That's Ikkyu. A friendship that no doubt encouraged Socho's own somewhat roguish tendencies. In the autumn of 1501, Socho was living as a guest of the local warlord of the Suraki in the east when, for unspecified reasons, he set out for the capital. En route, he chose to make a lengthy detour across Japan to visit his old master Soji, who was presently a guest of the warlord of the remote Bika region of the Japanese seacoast, where Soji too stayed out the year. Soji was by now in his 80s and nearing his end, but when Sojo, aging unwell himself, decided to turn back for home via some healing hot springs. Yeah, I have to go to the hot springs before Or are you going to go when you get older? What's going on? Soji insists on setting out with him for what would prove his last journey. Soji's final journey and death are movingly described by Soji and the death of Soji. Soji. It's called Soji Senki. All right. Very good.
I will not lose one match also. I want to win all matches. Listen. Fire! Smart guy. Yep. Yo, mama! Yeah, mama! Final match. 1-3-18. One match, killing match. Okay, son, 4-0 already. What? You are the side. You will not win one match also. Side? I win all match. Start. Only one hand. Nice. Oh, one hand. One love. This is the last game. Yeah, I'm tired. Okay. One hand. भैया सब बढ़िया नमस्कार सत श्री अकाल Wow! Out! Good. Wow! God, help me. Thank you, God. 1-3. Ponga! Yeah! Oh, nice. Nice one. 2-6. bad. Because of queen, hand, everything motion. Okay, start. Puya taso, puya taso.
Bingo! He's gonna play the Spanish.
Yeah, you play on Spanish. You take mine.
Oh yeah!
But he's heavy ball. It's for soccer ball. Difficult.
I can play any game.
Yeah, but it's
Golf number one. I play.
Right.
Golf I play very good.
Soccer ball.
Oh no!
Good one.
Nice. So you go. Ah! Yeah! Bill! Oh, she got.
One two point remaining. Then we play tennis. I am winning tennis also. I can win. Out. Like this, sir. You do like this.
Why?
Like this, way. Okay, another side. Finish this one. Finish for the other side.
I'm done.
Okay, better rest, man.
Take down.
Take rest.
Well, you want net? You take down or?
We play the tennis. You take a rest.
I'm trying.
Play tennis?
Yeah.
Where are you playing?
Any play I can. I am very good player. I am good in tennis also.
You came late. You came late. Late before you play 1 hour. Yeah, tell it. 1 hour play.
1 hour?
Tomorrow.
No, this before for kids. Yeah,
What?
1 hour. Yeah, play.
Of what?
Before kids. You came late.
Oh, we played.
Yeah, you played.
You came late. We come at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock.
Tomorrow.
When we play, it's 9.
Tomorrow I will come.
Understand?
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow I may not come. I'm not sure. Maybe not come.
Oh yeah.
Ah. 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 Can you get that?